So welcome, Shannon. We give thanks as always for your remarkable leadership. And as always at Setsi, we begin all things by acknowledging the original stewards of the various lands we're on. We acknowledge our creator. We acknowledge all our ancestors. We acknowledge all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We acknowledge all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So Shannon, can you please introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers and share a bit about your remarkable work, sir?
Yeah, Victor. My name is Shannin Metatawabin. I'm from Fort Albany First Nation in Northern Ontario. It's on James Bay. I'm from the tribal group, the Mushkegowuk tribal group, and I'm the CEO for the National Aboriginal Capital Corporations Association. I'm working on my 8th year.
That's incredible. That's incredible. I'm a huge fan of NACCA for the fact that you always put people first and center justice, access, inclusion, diversity, and equity. So once again, we give thanks for all that you do for so many. My next question is, what inspires you most about your current work, sir?
The driver of my life is to ensure that my people see equity in my lifetime. My people have been prevented from participating in the economy, prevented from being near the economy, been separated from their lands. And if I can do anything in policy, in politics, in program development, in capital, in my lifetime to ensure that my kids and my grandkids have the things that they need to even think of generational wealth, then I'll be happy. And that's what I do every day.
Ashe, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much for those remarkable sentiments and actionable insights. So my next question is, what challenges and barriers do you face in your work, and how are you and your colleagues working to overcome some of them?
We have a lot of challenges. Like the Black community, the Indigenous community has socioeconomic indicators that are some of the highest in the world. It's because of that prevention of participating in the economy, participating in daily life. There is this book that I love reading that it's called Decolonizing Wealth from the United States. And Edgar Villanueva wrote that, and it's transformed a lot of thinking because he analyzed the philanthropic system in the United States and found that there's a clear demonstrated metrics of people of color being prevented from participating in the economy, in finance, in health, in education. Very few CEOs at any of those leading organizations, never mind managers, supervisors being integrated into those organizations so that we can actually embed some of our thoughts to the programming being delivered, the capital being let and deployed. So we have very little control if you look at any sector. So anything that we can do today to ensure that we have a little bit of input by ensuring that we open doors for people of color to assume positions within a company, because you need quite a few before you're even given the opportunity to move up the ladder. And the more people that we have that are able to move up the ladder and impact policy and programs, then it'll actually meet the needs of our people. And so that's what we really need to do. And the barriers that we face every day, we take that challenge head on and we try to do what we can to try to break that barrier.
Ashe. So do you have a set of key priorities right now in your work?
Well, capital was the biggest priority that was given to me as a CEO when I first started with NACCA. We have a program relationship with the Indigenous Services Canada of the Government of Canada. They delivered a program for Indigenous entrepreneurs for many years, and then they transferred that to our organization. So through our network, we deployed a program to help Indigenous entrepreneurs participate in financing by buying down the risk. It was an equity contribution, and that's been in place for about 35 years, and it's showed immense success. We also deploy lending throughout all of our network. Every one of our members is a financial institution that gives out loans. So between all these programming, including capacity programs and marketing, we have a program that provides support to Indigenous entrepreneurs. The Indigenous Growth Fund was our latest tool that we deployed, and that allows private sector actors and investors to put money into our growth fund, and we in turn lend that out to our members who lend it out to Indigenous entrepreneurs. So there's a clear pathway for low-cost capital to our Indigenous entrepreneurs. So there's our capital. The next low-hanging fruit is to participate in procurement. The government has a mandate of 5%, and NACCA has been at this for a while, that we've been advocating for procurement, because I've been lending to Indigenous entrepreneurs for more than 20 years myself. And I remember that they tried to target procurement way back in the day, but because of the systemic barriers that exist in the government, that never was successful. You have to change from within and at the beginning of the process, not just the end and who makes the decision at the end of the day. It's all systemic. The problem is systemic. So if we're really going to target 5%, we're advocating to create a new Indigenous Institute that will be tasked with ensuring that we have advocacy, program support, and capacity support to ensure that there is a clear, measurable impact to procurement for Indigenous entrepreneurs. That includes a database of understanding where entrepreneurs are. We have a plug-in to our financial institutions so that they can scale up their businesses. So those are some of our highlights. We also are launching an Indigenous hub, so an information portal online. We have a physical hub in Ottawa, but I still want to see that expand.
That's incredible. That's incredible. Thank you so much for your leadership and all those insights as always. How do you feel about the future of community economic development in Canada? We use terms like social finance, impact investing, community finance, but when it comes to Indigenous entrepreneurs and the leadership on the demand side of capital, finding ways to almost harmonize the supply side, like how do you feel about the future of economic development in Canada?
Well, one of the other, sorry, I'm going to get some better light here. One of the other things that we have to really focus on for the Indigenous side is access to lands. We were displaced from our lands, put on reserves all across the country. We had 634 of them actually, and we're moved away from the market. Now, the Crown retains ownership of all our lands, even our reserve lands. So Indigenous people don't own any lands, but we're in the process right now of trying to get land back, identifying additional additions to reserves, purchasing lands in urban centers. There's a whole shift in how communities see their future and sustainability. I think it's about $10 to $50 million in additional revenue a community can see if they have land near an urban center, because you're right there at the market. You can actually participate. So that's a process that a number of communities in the country have been part of, and something that we want to try to emulate and get other communities to do. So that's one of them.
A lot of times when I think about land back movements and some of the really important work that has to happen, I always think about the food security movements, the folks doing work in social purpose real estate, and the folks doing work in affordable housing, and the fact that a lot of folks in land back don't talk to each other. They were operating silos, and the conditions that remove land from Indigenous peoples what created wealth in these urban centers. So that those level of reparations are a must, and I give thanks for your leadership around that. Thank you. Thank you. So my next question is, what is your ultimate goal, and what is?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, my apologies. That was my side. I just switched routers. So my next question is, what is your ultimate goal, and what does success look like to you and your colleagues?
I think the ultimate goal, and I think on that last question, we were talking about social finance, that we can't get lost in all the complexity of the terminology and capital. At the end of the day, it is just money, and we're trying to get that money to our communities. And by having money in the communities, it's going to impact our communities in a positive way. So we really just have to manage getting that capital to our communities. And however we get that capital through social impact investors, which seem to be the ones that want to participate right now. But I've met a lot of capital from around the world that want to participate in our community. They just don't have any way to get into the community. So if we can create as intermediaries those linkages to allow them to put their money to good use, they can make some money along the way, and they can impact positively our communities, then we are going to see some big benefits in the future. So I think that's where we're headed to. And as far as my goal, I think as as long as our Indigenous community have access to capital, they have the right capacity programs so that they can educate themselves about entrepreneurship, major projects, big business, different industries. They have support services at hand so that they can be guided along the way, and they also have mentors along the way. And then we're equitably balanced with access like anybody else. Then I think that we're on a level playing field, and we will see prosperity come to us. So I think that we're still a long way away from that, and we got a long way to go with making sure that the playing field is level, and that we have access to these programs, services, and capital. But that's the ultimate goal: is that everything is equitable and that we have equal opportunities at those opportunities. Because right now it's not equitable, and we need to make that equitable opportunity. And Indigenous people need to see some end to their land tenure. Okay, yeah, no, and if we get some answers to land tenure and see some end to that, then we can actually plan for our future from what we know we have. So that's really what the ultimate goal is.
That's incredible, sir. That's absolutely incredible, Elder. So my last question is, do you have any calls to action or closing thoughts for our listeners and viewers?
Calls to action is to impact where you are, what you're doing, to try to break down barriers for all people of color so that we can all participate in the economy.
Ashe, ashe, ashe. Thank you so much, Shannon, for your remarkable leadership, your visionary leadership, and your consistent work. You have led NACCA with integrity, with honor, and you make all our ancestors proud. We give thanks. And we'll close the way we began, by acknowledging the original stewards of the various lands we're on. We acknowledge all our ancestors, our creator. We acknowledge all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We acknowledge all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty.